Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Plugged In. And today's special guest is my colleague, Coach Heather Macy, most importantly, a friend. Coach, I just want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule just to be here with me and have a conversation.
Oh man, thank you so much for having me. Glad to spend a little bit of time with you. Appreciate the invite very much.
So, Coach, let's get into it. I want to start first with your career journey and your transition. So let's start with your time at Barry. What are you most proud of from your tenure there?
Man, I'm so thankful and grateful for the opportunity. Without Dr. Smith inviting me to come hang out in Miami for a little bit, I would have never had the exposure to so many things that's really gotten me to today. It was such a whirlwind to take someone from North Carolina. Everyone laughs all the time. They're like, "Where are you from?" So anytime I meet anyone in South Florida, and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm from North Carolina," and it was really a leap of faith. It was a very hard thing for me to do, to come to Miami and to go to Barry. And it was a huge transition. I'm so proud of the work that we did within kind of that first 6, 9 months. We signed two of the top 10 players in Miami-Dade County, which, for someone coming from out of town,
Yeah.
I think that's kind of a difficult thing to do. So really, really proud of that. And you know better than anyone, you watched it from the very beginning until that final stretch we had. But within wasn't even, I got here, it's not even July yet, but that would be 2 years of me being
Yeah.
in Florida. But I'm telling you, it was such a transformational time for me individually and personally, but also the team that we were able to build and the buy-in. And I think really got the program at Barry on really level footing.
So now you take the head coaching job at Nova Southeastern. What inspired you to just take that job and take on that role over there at Nova?
Well, it's been such a journey for me since I was a Division I head coach. So you look at it and you go, wow, it seems like it's been a couple of years, but it's been closer to 7 years. And I was ready to jump back into the Division I world. And I had considered several opportunities, went down a couple of different paths that would have caused even more of a significant type transitional period for me. So
Yeah.
that was kind of what I was looking for. Really felt inspired, rejuvenated, and ready with actually the climate of college athletics. A lot of people are getting jumpy and getting out. I'm watching it play out, and I want to get in. And so, as all of these opportunities kind of transpired, I just really felt like God was pulling me to
Yeah.
stay down here because I'd already gotten such a good transition and kind of gotten my footing from relationships inside of the recruiting world for sure. And then the opportunity here at Nova presented itself. And, to be here with an elite group of leaders has been unbelievable. It was like 30 days in, and we had signed 14 kids. And the things that I got to experience to having these families on campus and being on the phone and chatting with people is the reputation of NSU. I had
Yeah.
really, I learned so much. I had no idea really what the footprint is and the significance of the footprint.
Yeah. Now, how would you say, now getting back into D1, how would you say the stop at Barry, how did that prepare you to get back into D1 into this next step?
I think that all of the steps have been part of a journey for me, and a lot of the journey has been a healing journey. So for me to go from being a Division I head coach and all the things that come with that to going, and first I went and I coached junior college basketball, and I say all the time, like I needed that to fall back in love with the game, to fall back in love with what coaching entails, to get back to the root and the core of what it is, whether that is sweeping the floors or rolling the balls out for practice. I was able to do that. And then, we had the COVID scenario
Yeah.
that occurred that I think put everybody on step back a little bit with perspective. And I was able to go home. And that was a 2.5-year period of time that I went to my alma mater, but I also was able to be around my family, which was just a significant period of time and such a blessing. And so the journey to kind of getting myself back and getting healed and feeling I'm, I have said this and I don't hide from this. I think today I'm probably the best I have ever been as far as inside of my industry. I know for sure it's the best that I have been with myself. And inside of my personal life has just absolutely been incredible. And so my faith journey,
Yeah.
it has just exploded. And I think you start looking at the roster that we've worked to build, and my it's a joke. It's not really a joke because it really has felt like this. But everybody goes, "Wow, coach, I heard who you signed and all this," and they're like, "So who's your recruiting coordinator?" And listen, I'm coaches Josie and Abria. They're like, and they're like, "Who's your recruiting coordinator?" And I said, "God's our recruiting coordinator." That's the steps of how we've all gotten here together, and then the steps to the folks who will be joining us. It's been the weirdest stories, Danny, that you'll be like, Coach, it's insane how this stuff has happened. But really, I feel like that we are where we're supposed to be. And I think that we've got our feet just totally planted. So the Division I transition, however that occurs, the timing, we're not worried about any of those kinds of things. What we're going to do is we are going to be as good as we can possibly be every single day, and then work to make sure that we're doing the things we can do to help these kids grow, develop, mature, and continue to give back to the world in a positive way.
Certainly, God works in mysterious ways and for a purpose. I know you have a program, 2 Feet In. Talk to me how that came about and how you developed that program.
Well, the concept of 2 Feet In really started with our basketball team. Is that, it's about being perfectly imperfect. And I think whether or not you put something on the end of your name, or the beginning of your name, like coach or preacher or mom or dad, there's this level of expectations of perfectionism. And I wanted to get totally away from that. So what 2 Feet In really means is that we're all perfectly imperfect. And I'm going to be 2 feet in with you, not simply when things are good. I'm going to be 2 feet in on this mission, this project, this whatever it is that we are doing, to be completely committed. And so the concept of 2 Feet In really started with a basketball team in North Carolina. And then it just continuously grown as I went down the path of emotional intelligence and became certified and went back and got a specialization in positive psychology. I learned so many cool things that most importantly, I was just wanting to share to other people. And so what I've been able to do is take the concept of 2 feet in and share it with teams and athletic departments and really coaches of all sports, because it makes such a difference when you're able to stop looking for being perfect every single day and start figuring out ways that we can have acceptance with one another and can really buy into one another. And then life stops being so transactional. And then that's how I think that magic starts happening with teams.
So how do you take that and incorporate it into building a team culture, especially with a new program?
So it's everything inside of our program, including as we started the recruiting process. So obviously our staff buys into it, believes in it, lives it, and been with these guys for a long time, from their playing days that they learned about the concept of being 2 feet in, all the way into now. I told them the other day, I said, gosh, guys, we've worked together now at multiple stops, really 3 stops for Josie and Abri and I. So it's really good continuity with the staff. I think that's key. So now we're all bought into where we want to go. And then in the recruiting process, we have a blueprint that we follow, and we're able to share with the players that we're recruiting this concept inside of that cycle. And when you started inside of that cycle, and it's not just like introduced once they come to campus, I think it does allow for the buy-in, because I think a lot of the kids have chosen to be with us and to do this because of the holistic approach that we take to the game of basketball.
Now, I have to ask this because this is such a funny story, but do you remember one of our first interactions with each other?
Oh, I would be embarrassed to say that I can remember that one. We have had many. Remind me, refresh me.
All right, so it was Super Bowl Sunday, and we had lost the game. It wasn't a pretty game. It was a bad loss, and I knew that you weren't too happy. So in my mind, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try to lighten the mood and not ask really direct questions because I know she's not happy. So I'm gonna ask who she's going for in the Super Bowl. So I ask you, who are you going for in the Super Bowl? And it was kind of a mic drop moment. You were like, I don't care about the damn Super Bowl. And you just walked off. And in my mind, I was like, wow, that was absolutely awesome. I loved that.
Yeah, that sounded about right. I'm telling you, that was year one.
Yeah.
And boy, year one was, if it could possibly ever happen in the history of college athletics, it happened that year. And so, man, and you're asking me about the Super Bowl. I remember, and I walked away, and I thought, wow, way to be a jerk on that one. So thanks for being my buddy, even so. And then I did attempt to apologize, I think, after that, and started making
Yeah.
some jokes about it was Taylor Swift's boyfriend, I thought.
Yep. Yep.
Maybe won the Super Bowl. But hey, thanks for giving me a pass on that one. I was kind of a jerk.
In my head, though, I was like, wow, that was such a badass moment. I loved that.
Yeah, the intensity was pretty high. That is for sure. Hey, but listen, we haven't forgotten who's been so good to us during all those rocky roads, because we had some rocky roads to get it to where we had a little bit of more of a clean sailing. And you were one of those folks, whether it was coming by practice or encouraging the players, promoting the games that we were playing, and doing just a really, really nice job during the in-game broadcast. We appreciate it. We saw it, and really appreciated what you did and what a lot of other people did while we were building.
And let me tell you, year two compared to year one was like night and day. It was completely different just from the energy, the intensity of the team. I mean, I saw it in practice even before the season started. It was completely different.
Yeah, it was a pretty cool transformation. 10 new players, a bunch of young guys, a lot of kids from Miami,
Yeah.
which that buy-in was super cool. Brought them back from Division I schools to spend 1 year with us, and the Emma and Colleen. And man, did they do a good job of. That's a hard scenario. You got 1 year to play and come in and do a great job, and know that you may not really experience the fruit, but you've laid the groundwork of what could happen for the program. So I was so thankful for that, and hope that we created a little bit of momentum and excitement for the basketball team there on the women's side.
So how do you balance being tough and demanding while being supportive and empathetic as a coach?
So I struggled with that early in my career. And I will tell you this, it's something happens with women as we get into our 40s. And something for me around the age of 42, it kind of clicked. And I go, you know what? I'm really not going to apologize for how that I work really hard and super demanding. And so I'm aggressive and unapologetic about any of those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And then honestly, I think that the piece to the fact that you're holding people to standards, if you've got the right folks, they know that's from a place of love. They know that it is so hard to hold a group to standards, because listen, we all want to be liked.
Yeah.
From me to whatever coach in the country, you don't wake up every morning and go, hey, I'm going to be a jerk to as many people as I can today and be really, really hard on everybody. Generally, everyone wants to be enjoyed to be around. So holding people accountable and having a standard that you just will not deviate from is very tough to do. And I think as long as, you don't compromise and that there's a level of like, this is the standard. And so stuff isn't always fair, but it's very clean lines. Like, I'm a big person on like, be easy on the people, but really, really strict with the policy. So before I make any decision, I always go, okay, that's a kid I like. I'm making this decision. That's a kid that, she's never going to play on our team. I make that decision. But I make the same decision. And I really pride myself in doing that. Like, hey, if I give you this leeway, I'm going to have to do that for everyone. And I think that young people respect that. I think they go, she's not going to bend on it, because that's
Yeah.
going to establish the bend for everyone. So respect, I think, goes in that kind of thing. And the other part to it is, I think that the parents of the players that we recruit, they're bought in on what we're doing too. And I think they do believe that we're a team. And so when the parents and the coach gets together and they go, hey, our number one thing is helping this young person be really successful, because they're probably going to do really silly things because they're college kids, and that's just
Yeah.
kind of what happens. But when we're able to establish that, and we build a team underneath them, even when they don't do well, they never get to the point that they fail. They may fall a little bit, we pick them back up and keep moving. But I think, again, it's the teamwork between parents and coaches that sometimes there's a huge gap, that we need to shorten the gap and all the adults pulling in the same direction.
Everyone always talks about wins and losses, but how do you define success outside of the win and loss column?
Well, the win and loss column is for sure a big piece for me,
Yeah.
and how I define success. And it's a interesting business. It's an interesting career in coaching, because really, to be successful and keep your job, you want to be a winning basketball coach, and everyone loves the winning team. But to get to that point, there's so many steps that have got to happen, from being able to establish the culture of it, be able to establish some continuity, and being able to really build and grow in what you're doing, because things like that really do take time. But my whole thing is, it'd be silly for me to be a college basketball coach and it not matter if they graduate. That's another way that I kind of keep score, besides winning and losing. I'm keeping score in a lot of ways on retention. I think I pride myself in that, because the transfer portal, I joke, everybody's so panicked over it, but we were doing the transfer portal like a decade ago, before everybody else was.
Yeah.
And no one just really realized how this has been occurring. Now it's simply publicized, but I think we've done a really nice job of retention in that capacity. So I'm proud of those kinds of things. I think from what we're about to do at NSU, some of the ways that I'm keeping score is going to be season ticket holders, like how many people are coming out to these
Yeah.
games. I think what we're doing from a marketing perspective and a branding perspective is really, really good. And so I'm looking forward to keeping score in all those kinds of ways.
Have you seen, over the years in your coaching career, have you seen a big difference in the use of the transfer portal and NIL?
So the transfer portal, yes, because it's gotten to where it's easier. Back in the old day, I'm going to really age myself here, but back in the old, the transfer game was relationship driven. There wasn't a way to advertise. So the transfer portal, for those of you who are reading about it, but maybe aren't really understanding, simply you're advertising. You're
Mhm.
advertising that you're available, and there is a list, and it has contact information. So what it's really done is it's made it a little bit a lazy man's way of getting connected to these kinds of things. So to me, it's easier. I think the transfer portal has made things way easier. There's way less complexities on eligibility. A lot of times it's wherever they go, they're eligible.
Yeah.
Back when, that was a really big piece of it. You were maybe not eligible. People were having to sit out a lot more. Sometimes it was the number of transfers, but sometimes it was the academics not having enough percentage toward degree. So that is a piece of the transfer portal. But the second thing is, NIL is good because it allows the players to handle that through themselves. Like if
Mhm.
they've got the personality and they've got certain things going for them, they can really market themselves. Not every player is doing that. The
Yeah.
other piece is what's gotten complex, which is the collective. So NIL is a great deal because they're out and they're protein shakes and hair
Yeah.
products or whatever it is that they're choosing to do that they're interested in. I think it's entrepreneurial. I think that they need to understand that for later on in life and what they choose to do. It's the collective piece that I think separating a lot of the folks from what players they can attract.
From the player development side, for you and your staff, what do you guys look for in a recruit?
Well, I think what we're doing, there's very few kids who don't like the individual skill stuff. I think that's what their parents have paid for them to be in it. I mean, since they're in high school, they've been they've been doing this kind of stuff. The difference, I think, in our skill development plan is that everything we do skill development wise is transferable into the game. And some of the players, they'll talk about it all the time. They'll say, hey, this is the only time I've ever seen this kind of thing. Is the things that we actually do inside of a practice environment or a skill development environment are things that are applicable to the game. And that's a big piece to it. I don't want to keep them in the gym for 4 hours every day. We want to get in there and go hard, high intensity, short duration. So if we're in there an hour or we're in there 30 minutes, make sure that it is game speed and it's game applicable. And then when the players get into those scenarios in the game, then they're better equipped to be successful.
So how do you manage player personalities and keep everyone aligned, towards the team goals? I'll use an example. I mean, we've seen someone like Audrey, who's really, really quiet, to, let's say, I think maybe like Kiki, who's a little bit more outspoken. How do you manage in the locker room, like all the different sorts of personalities?
Man, I wish that I could manage that. I don't. What I do is let everyone be themselves. But if I had a magic wand and I could do that, or I could sprinkle something on them, wouldn't that be super, super cool? We have a program called How to Be the Ultimate Teammate that we start every fall. And I think some of those kinds of things are so good for the players to understand is not everyone's going to be alike. Not everyone's going to think the same. But when you have that respect between each other, you get it. So whether it's a player like Audrey Jennings, who she played for me for 4 years and scored over 1,700 points. And I don't even think it was to her junior year that I even knew what her voice sounded like. She was that shy and quiet. Now she's really now, going through graduation, she's really coming into herself, and you can really see the maturity and the change. But I would say that her work ethic spoke for itself. And so what she didn't say, maybe in a team meeting or in halftime or inside of a huddle, she spoke very, very loudly in the way that she played, and specifically the way that she trained outside of practice, because her work ethic is unmatched.
Yeah, I joked with her one time after a broadcast. I saw a difference completely in personality from like junior to senior year. Junior year, she would be in the post-game interview, and I would ask her, like, how do you feel? There was a good win, and she would just give me, yeah, it was great. And then after, I'll tell her, Audrey, you need to give me a little bit more.
She was fun to watch, huh?
She was amazing player to watch.
I hope she has a long and successful career professionally. She's still working through those kinds of things to see where she's going to be. But I'm going to tell you something, whatever team picks her up, they'll realize what a gem they've got when she gets there and starts to work.
100%. What is the hardest moment you've faced in your coaching career thus far, and how did you grow from it?
And there's been so many tough moments, and I talk publicly, and I talk to a lot of young coaches about some of this kind of stuff. But something that maybe seems not so hard, if it's not a coach listening, I would tell you the relocation of what college coaching is really not for the faint of heart. So I have a golden doodle puppy, Ripley Rose, and she will be 8 in September. And about a month ago, I said, I'm going to start counting the number of places, 8 years, and how many places she has lived. And I'm embarrassed to say the number, so I will not, because it will be it will be like, whoa, you've got to be kidding me. But it's well over 8, and she will be 8. So what I would say is, like, some of the things with what we do inside of our industry from a personal perspective and the wear and tear, when some people, listen, like my family's lived in their exact same house their entire life, right? And there's many people who do that. Or maybe someone would say, like, hey, I've moved once or I've moved twice. But you're talking about once you sign up and say, I'm inside of college athletics, what you are saying is, I am willing to relocate. I am willing to stay mobile. I am willing, because listen, college coaching is like in dog years. Like every 1 year is like 7 because of the expectation, because of the pressures of what we do. Understanding that a career somewhere you stay for 5 years is significant longevity inside of this industry.
Early on in your career, would you say there was any coach or coaches that you feel influenced you?
I was so fortunate, one, to play for, I played for Coach Steve Johnson at Greensboro, who was, like a father figure to me. He was a very caring, still to this day. I mean, we talk frequently now, and I knew that he really cared, which was super impactful for me as a young person and someone who was really at 18 years old. I thought I was going to New York City coming out of going to college. It was a huge transitional period for me, which has allowed me to be way more empathetic as our players transition from high school to college or from their other school to here. But the other piece too is that I was fortunate as a young coach. I became a head coach at 26 years old. I was able to meet Coach Sylvia Hatchell, who at the time was the head coach at the University of North Carolina. And she really did a lot of things that she didn't need to do. She took me under her wing. She would chat with me. She answered all of my questions. I coached at Francis Marion, and that's where she cut her start. And so she won multiple national titles there and kind of gave me the cheat sheet on how to do a similar path. And, to have someone who's in every Hall of Fame ever, won over 1,000 games, to be a resource for a young coach, there's nothing like it. So I've really prided myself in knowing that, like, if those folks hadn't taken the time to answer my call and spend that extra time with me, I don't think I would have been able to grow inside of this profession. And so I take it really serious when a young coach says, "Hey, Heather, can I chat about something?" That my answer is always yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And that's what my next question was leading to. Those experiences as a player, as a young coach, how do you translate that now to younger coaches or even players?
Well, my hope is that a lot of the kids inside of our program choose to get into coaching. Like right now, that's not what their focus is, and they're
Yeah.
majoring in all these amazing things and have all these different kinds of interests. But we have so many of them who have the skill set, the personality, the drive, that they would be amazing coaches. So I've got my fingers crossed that some more of them want to get into it. But as I mentioned before, the other piece to this that gets a little bit complex is that it's not for everybody in the way that the lifestyle is, because it really is a lifestyle. It is,
Yeah.
it's not a what time do I go to work and what time do I go home? It's open ended always. And so my hope is that a lot of these kids do choose to get into this industry, because as many things that you would say maybe are drawbacks, I think that there's other things that make it like the best thing that you could possibly ever do. In like, I think we have the coolest jobs ever. I mean, it's kind of a weird way to make a living, but it's still a pretty cool deal of what we do.
Yeah, no, I totally understand it when you said it's not like your typical like 9 to 5 job. I mean, we're both in the sports field, in the sports industry, so I totally get it. It's really open ended, and it's kind of the sports world never really stops or sleeps. So I totally get it. Um, what's your vision for Nova's program in the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, first, if you look across the hall and look at what men's basketball is doing, and Coach
Yeah.
Crutchfield and his group, I mean, to be able to be with him every single day and watch his practice and pick his brain, I mean, I'm really feeling like I'm inside of a coach's clinic every day. And so I told him I'm gonna be at every single practice. So just know I'm gonna sit there with my pen and paper. But he is wow, what he's done. I just don't even know if it could ever be matched
Yeah.
throughout his career, not simply while he's been at Nova. And so, my hope is that we follow right along. And so he's playing fast. They're applying pressure all the time. I think we want to do a similar style of play and continue to be nationally recognized is the plan. And then my goal is, as this 3 to 5 year period occurs and as our transition goes, I think my role in this is to be experienced and to make it as seamless as possible, and to make really, really smart, strategic decisions and choices that really do result in a long-term play for this.
So we're gonna do a little bit of a fun lightning round. Uh, do you have a favorite pregame ritual?
I am very strict in my pregame rituals. Yes, from the order in which I do everything, including if we've been successful, let's stick with the same. I've worn the same outfit on that winning streak we went through last year. I think every
Yeah.
single game. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how many games that and before I didn't wash it because it. I was like that serious about it.
uh, do you have a go-to hype song? Are you a type of coach that listens to music before a game?
Oh yeah, of course. I love it. Anything like old school R&B, hip hop, 90s or 2000s.
Most underrated skill in basketball.
Oh my gosh, the backdoor pass.
Best coaching advice you've ever received.
Mm, uh, the lows are too low and the highs are never high enough. So be careful what you're chasing.
Uh, if you weren't coaching, what would you be doing?
If I wasn't coaching, I'm a very entrepreneurial spirit. So probably something with running my own gig, my own show on something.
And final question, I always ask people, our guests at the end of the episode, if you can give advice to our viewers, whether it's basketball or life advice, what would it be?
Yeah, be relentless with distractions, levels of focus, levels of work, levels of right work, intentional work without distractions will be what separates you and equals success.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Coach, for your time. This was Coach Heather Macy. You guys check her out next season at Nova Southeastern. We hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you guys next time for a brand new episode.